Hello, sports fans. This is Wilson. So I just wanted to check in with you guys about a couple of things. The first one being the news that broke today. Um, I first saw the report from Mike Coppinger and the Ring Magazine that Javante Tank Davis and Jake Paul will be facing off in an exhibition boxing match on November the 14th in Atlanta at State Farm Arena, which is where the Atlanta Hawks play. It'll be streaming globally on Netflix. Um, per ESPN's Andreas Hale, rounds and weight have not yet been decided. Um, and as far as the Anthony Joshua fight, which the initial reports were that that fight was, I guess the talks fell through for that. But the co-founder of Jake Paul's Most Valuable Promotions, which will be promoting the fight, Nakisa Badarian, said that the AJ fight is still on the table. So um, Tank, let's see here, Tank, uh, has never fought above 140 pounds and has fought his last six fights at 135 pounds. And the expectation was that he would rematch with Lamont Roach after their majority draw in March. But that won't be taking place. Um, and of course, the size disparity between these two men, with Tank, uh, as I said, a lightweight, uh, and Jake, who is campaigning at cruiserweight, Jake weighed in 199.4 pounds against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. in his last bout. So you're talking about one of those. This is like one of those. The ESPN piece by Hale, he compared it to when Floyd Jr. fought Jake's brother Logan, which was a huge size disparity. And, you know, I would say the initial reaction to this amongst boxing fans has been, you know, like it's a farce, basically, right? Obviously, I mean, I don't know what it would take. I mean, I don't know what it would take for Jake Paul to be taken fully seriously as a boxer. If he beat Anthony Joshua, is that something that would allow him to be taken seriously? I don't know. Uh, but obviously, I mean, anytime you have a fight like this reminds me of those old. I remember when Manny Pacquiao was fighting Oscar De La Hoya, right? And Pacquiao at 5'6", maybe 5'7" on a good day. Oscar this big 5'10", uh, you know, junior middleweight. Pacquiao, really like probably a natural like 140 pounder or something like that. And they fought, and we all know what happened. But before the fight, I mean, everybody thought that it was, it's ridiculous for somebody's Pacquiao size to fight somebody Oscar's size. And I remember Abby Kareem, also known as Shoe Fly, and he wrote that he compared it to like those old school MMA fights where it'd be like some 7-foot guy against somebody who's like, you know, like one of those, right? Like a circus fight kind of. And you know, this fight obviously is. I mean, that's crazy how uh, after what first when Pacquiao and Oscar when they signed on to fight each other, how that was considered like blasphemy, basically that would even happen. And then Pacquiao went on to do so well, fighting against bigger guys that such a it's just like I mean I would say still that people still I mean, in boxing at the end of the day as Emmanuel Stewart was that there's a reason that we have weight classes in boxing, right? And I saw somebody say today that the difference between you know when you're in the smaller weight classes, a two division weight difference is like that's like a 8% body weight difference or something like that, right? And so when you uh, have fighters where the weight difference is even just one weight class difference, you would expect the person in the bigger weight class to win. And so when you start talking about a two weight class difference, or like in the case of Bud and Canelo, that's a 147, even 50, a 54 pounder versus a 168, pounder, right? So you're talking about such a huge weight difference, and people are always going to look at that and go, "Is this a real fight?" And I think a lot of people think that that it's not a real fight, that it's just a money grab, for both of those guys. And so, but I think what Pacquiao did, beating Oscar and beating all those bigger guys like that, it did make it, I guess, a little bit more believable. But it's the only, I mean, it's like more so for a like I said, a truly special and spectacular fighter like Pacquiao. To face maybe like when Pacquiao fought and beat Antonio Margarito, right? Like by then people were used to it and everybody expected Pacquiao to win, but that was not the same Margarito of 2008, 2007, 2006, right? And so. Uh, I would say that what Pacquiao did made it a little bit more plausible that someone, who could jump two weight classes and beat somebody bigger than them, but it would still require like the right set of circumstances, right? It would be like a setup. Like, you have to know if you want to beat somebody that much bigger than you, you got to go know which guy to pick, right? And in this case, I think with Crawford and Canelo, uh, it's like Canelo is not some old man or somebody who's Canelo is still pretty much I mean, he's still a top fighter in boxing. Bud Crawford is actually older than Canelo, right? So I think most people, most boxing people look at that still and go, it's probably not a viable fight. But regardless, I mean, now we're talking about somebody, a lightweight against somebody who weighs 200 pounds, right? So, and of course, it's gonna be an exhibition, and it doesn't matter, right? And who knows how hard they'll fight or whatever it is. Uh, it's just hard to say. It's just hard to really know how good Jake Paul actually is. It's just impossible to really know. But it will be somewhat fascinating to see what happens when the best 135-pound fighter in the world faces a 200-pound man who is like a celebrity boxer, but you look at him in the ring, he knows the way around the ring. He can fight, but he doesn't have a real boxing resume. He's 21-2, but he started his career as like a TikTok, YouTube, making these type of events like that. And I think it's impressive what he's done and how good he's gotten in such a short period of time. But like I said, it's just kind of impossible. Now, once again, like no, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who I read also today was just deported. Uh, but he he's someone that back when I was still into boxing, much more than I am now. I remember when he fought, Sergio Martinez, and he actually hurt Sergio Martinez there in that 12th round. It was exhilarating, and so, but that was a long time ago. So, that version of Chavez that uh, Jake Paul beat is really not a fair comparison, especially when Sergio Martinez is if he's not in the Hall of Fame yet, he should be. But he was an excellent fighter. But so the fact that Chavez once troubled him, uh, that's saying something. Even though Chavez was never really considered a real, true world class fighter, he was mostly just his dad's, son. Uh, but what Chavez did, I mean, you give him credit for that. He beat up a Hall of Fame uh, middleweight champion. But the version of Chavez uh, that Jake Paul beat, I mean, it's just like, again, it's neither here nor there, right? And I also give Jake Paul credit for being somebody who's able to make big events on his own. He doesn't need Turkey to help out, and he's been doing it. Creating intrigue and bringing in that household feel to his fights, where the common person is interested in ways that most fighters outside of really, I mean, outside of Canelo, I guess, in modern boxing, and he had to face Terrence Crawford on Netflix with Turkey behind it and Dana White, to make a fight this big. Of course, Canelo, you can't take away from what he did fighting. Obviously Mayweather was the A side when they fought, but that was a long time ago. But the fights with Triple G, Canelo's made some big events. You can't take that away from him. But uh, is he? I mean, it's like like I said, I give Jake Paul credit for not really being a real boxer but being able to make big events. And Tank Davis, um, I don't know. I can't really. It's like I don't really blame Tank for this because, like I said, it is a big event. And I was listening to something that Max Kellerman said. The ring asked him if Bud and Canelo was the biggest fight he's ever covered, and he goes, well, yeah, and he's covered a lot of big fights that featured Mayweather or Pacquiao. Pretty sure he did Mayweather versus Pacquiao. That did like 4 million pay-per-view buys, right? And he goes, well, even if you say 4 million homes, and so that's 5 people in each home watch the fight, that's 20 million people. Well, this fight is between Bud and Canelo is going to be the most viewed fight since 1978 when Leon Spinks fought Muhammad Ali. And he said that fight was viewed by 90 million people. Let's say the 20 million people total uh, across 4 million homes who watch Mayweather and Pacquiao. Well, this fight between Bud and Canelo will do multiples of that, just by the virtue of the fact that it's going to be on Netflix, which has such a wide audience. And this fight between Tank uh, and Jake Paul, which will also be on Netflix, uh, yeah. My point is that you can't really, to me, you can't, even though it's like any real boxing fan is going to look at something like this and turn their nose up at it. If I'm Tank Davis, to me, um, like I said, uh, it's. I mean, who else is he going to get that big of a payday against? You know, it's going to be the most money he's ever made for a fight. And like I said, he did numbers against Ryan Garcia, but I don't think any of his other fights have approached those type of numbers. It's not like a Mayweather situation where anybody he fights, he's going to do a million plus against. So he took the biggest fight and the biggest payday that he could get, and you can't knock a man for that. You know, he'll get back to Lamont Roach and whoever else if he wants to. He might get this bag and decide that he doesn't want to fight anymore. There already been some talk like that about him not, basically being ready to step away from the sport. So we'll just have to see what happens. But yeah, man, it's really no intrigue to a real boxing fan. But you know, it's money for Tank, and then we'll see what he does after that, and then. But I would be interested to see what Drake could do against Anthony Joshua. I don't know how active Anthony Joshua is these days, but yeah. Uh, so uh, there's my take on that. Um, Now, I also want to say a little bit about John Wall, who announced his retirement from the NBA. I think it was yesterday. Uh, I'm sorry, John Wall. He was the first pick in the 2010 draft after 1 year at Kentucky. That Kentucky team that he played on with DeMarcus Cousins and Eric Bledsoe, which is a team that I think that team. That team deserves a documentary. 30 for 30. Because when you think about that team, and you think about one and done stars, right? Or even just teams that are dominated by freshmen, right? Of course, you have the Fab Five. The Fab Five were not one and done. They had five starters, 5 freshmen as starters, but all those guys played at least 2 years. Chris and Juwan played 2 years, and Jalen played I think 3 years at Michigan. So, and then you fast forward some, and I know there's some other guys who only did 1 year. I think Marbury did 1 year at Georgia Tech. And then when Luol Deng came out after 1 year at Duke, and then you fast forward some, 2008, and that was a great year in college basketball. You had Memphis with Derrick Rose, of course, also coached by Calipari, and you had the UCLA team with Kevin Love and Westbrook. Westbrook was a sophomore that year. And the year before that, that was the Durant and Oden year. But I feel like 2010 for them to have, 2000, Mike Conley was also on that Ohio State team with Oden. But for them to have three guys on that 2010 Kentucky team, they were all first round picks, and after coming out as freshmen, Wall went number 1. I think Cousins went third or fourth or something like that. And I just felt like it was like a watershed moment. It kicked out. It was Calipari's first year at Kentucky, and we know all he did for the next 15 years was, send one and done guys to the league who became stars and made boatloads of money. And then all the programs that copied Kentucky after that, Duke being the foremost example of that, which previously, Coach K, like I said, with Luol Deng, that was really the only one and done star. And, Corey Maggette in 99, but then Luol Deng, who was a top 5 pick, I think, or top 6, or well, they might have been the 7th pick in the draft, actually. But that was a pretty big deal when Luol, I guess it was, I wasn't watching college basketball when Maggette was a freshman at Duke. But, Luol Deng, that seemed like something that was important when it happened. And then like I said, but after after Calipari started his Kentucky run, and then you go into Coach K, he wasn't going to stand there with his hands in his pocket. The ante had been up. He got involved, and UCLA had some star freshmen. Kansas, they had some star freshmen. Of course, they had the year when they had Embiid and Andrew Wiggins. North Carolina that year with Harrison Barnes. That was like the start of that trend, of having not just one star freshman on the team who was going to be a high draft pick, but multiples, and yeah, that team just just for being the first of those Kentucky teams, to do that, I feel like it was it was meaningful, and then in the NBA, he had a very good NBA. Well, before the injuries, anyway. He had he was a fantastic player. Made 5 All-Star teams, although he only played 647 games over 11 seasons. He had career averages of 19 points, 4 rebounds, and 9 assists. His best season was in 2017. He averaged 23.1 points, 4.2 rebounds, 10.7 assists, and 2 steals. He shot 45% from the field. The Wizards won 49 games. He played 78 of those 82. He made All-NBA third team and finished 7th in the MVP voting. And then they made the second round of the playoffs. And in 13 games that year, he averaged 27 points, 4 rebounds, and 10 assists. He also made second team all defense in 2015. And what I always remember John Wall for is being one of the most lightning quick, like one of the fastest point guards to ever play the game end to end. I always grouped him together with a couple other guys who came in a couple years before him, that being Russell Westbrook and Derrick Rose. Probably those 3 of the best pure athletes to ever play the point guard position, and I would say Rose and Westbrook, they were built more compact than D Rose especially. I feel like Russ is a little lankier, but also like more muscular. Wall was just kind of just all he was arms and legs kind of. I always wonder like who would win in just a foot race if those 3, were in a race. Who would win it? And we'll never know. I remember one time I asked a guy that I went to high school with named Adrian Flowers, and I think he might have, because Westbrook and and Derrick Rose they're just raw speed, raw leaping ability, almost like unrestrained, you know. And I think he said that John Wall, the difference between him is that he could change gears, he could change directions. Now those guys could too, especially D Rose, as far as change of direction goes. But I mean, John Wall, but when he got that ball on the break, and he was going, he could stop, he could slow down, he could slow down and then speed back up. He could change directions, he could pull it back out. So there's something to be said uh, for that, you know. And once again, I just think that uh, his career was worth some retrospection, you know, because I think he was a really good player, uh, and I think that like I said, that Kentucky team that he was on, what they started at Kentucky. If you just think about all the guys that they put into the league, man, it was really something, you know. So um, props to John Wall on a fantastic career, man. Uh, he did what he had to do. Hopefully, he made enough money to last him for the rest of his life. You know. Let's see. Is there anything else? I think I'll say something about the Dodgers, who they swept the Padres over the weekend to gain a first place in the NL West, and they still have a 2-game lead as I record this right now. Uh, you know, Mookie Betts uh, is somebody who stands out this year, and not really in a good way. This is probably the worst. This has been pretty much the worst season that Mookie Betts uh, has ever had. If you just go by OPS, right? His OPS this year is just 682. Uh, and that's the lowest OPS that he's had since. I mean, it's by far the lowest OPS of his career. First of all, his previous lowest OPS was in 2017, when his OPS was 803. A year he hit 264, 24 homers, and 102 RBIs. This year he's only hitting 243. Again, that's the lowest of his career. 13 home runs, 57 RBIs. Now, his WAR is 2.7. I'm guessing that, WAR gets, until the season is over, you don't know what his WAR is going to be, like, final WAR, right? But previously, his only other, as a rookie, his WAR was 2.1. He only played 52 games. This year, he's played 116 games, and his WAR is 2.7. His previous career low so once again, in 2020, that was the COVID year. He only played 55 games. His WAR was 3.4, so you can't, right? But in a full season, his low in WAR was 4.2 in 2021. He played 122 games. And then other than that, WAR 6 in 2015, 145 games. So like I said, Mookie Betts having the worst season of his life. The Dodgers are still in first place, thanks to Shohei Ohtani having another MVP type season. Freddie Freeman just always consistent. Will Smith is having a great year. He's hitting 308, 15 homers, 56 RBIs. So he has the second highest OPS on the team after Shohei. And so you just have to hope that when it gets to October, if you're a Dodgers fan, that if you look at this pitching, Yamamoto has been excellent, 2.9 ERA. His record is only 10-8. It's not his fault. And 133 innings pitched. Kershaw has been good at 3.01 ERA. He's 7-2 on the season. Tyler Glasnow, he hasn't done much pitching this year, but I think for the Dodgers, man, the game plan is simple. It's the same as it was last year. Hate to say this, but when you get to October, you do not let Clayton Kershaw be on that playoff roster. It is what it is, man. Sorry, I love the guy. He's one of the greatest Dodgers of all time, but we saw how much easier it was to win the World Series last year without Kershaw in the rotation, man. It is what it is. If the after we fell behind 2-0 to the Padres, the rest was history, And if the Dodgers get to October and they decide that they're going to let Clayton Kershaw get out there and take them out in the postseason, then I don't know what to tell you except they're going to get what they deserve. And I hate to say that, but it's true. All right, so before I get out of here, just a reminder to hit that subscribe button next to the Complete Podcast Network and to follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at TC Pod Network. You can also send feedback and mailbag questions to CompleteLakersPodcast@gmail.com. I am out.